Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Asturu Shishimat Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Asturu Shishimat Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anantikoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Nam Acharya Siddhas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Avadip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Sama Beta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaur Prema Nande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sunila, welcome. You're staying this side? Okay, wonderful. We have some new guests today, or they come before?
First time.
The others are coming for that?
She came before. Hare Krishna, welcome. She came once
No,
before.
I know her.
Marji, welcome. Thank you for coming.
What's your names?
Sujay.
Sujay.
Yes.
And you?
Neat.
How you spell it?
N-I-S-S.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
And welcome to Sevika Marji, first time. Welcome, Marji.
Welcome, yes. Thank you very much for coming along. And we'll discuss a little bit about Bhagavad Gita, the 15th chapter. It's a little toughy one, this, but it's called the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Yoga means to connect. Yoga, we connect with the Supreme Person. So in the 15th chapter, there's a few sections. And from 1 to 5, it's talking about becoming detached from the material world. So how one should detach oneself from the material world, how the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. You know, reflections are not real, right? You know, if you have, like for example, if you have water here and you have a tree and it's got full of lychees, you know, you like lychees. And then that thing is reflected in the water. And you try to go and catch that one in the water and you want to eat it. Is that real? So that's how the material world is. It's a reflection of the spiritual world. And one should surrender unto Krishna and attain the spiritual world. So 5 verses, the first 5 verses discusses these subject matters. How you become detached. Because you're very attached, you know, in this material world. Then from like 6 to about 11, 6th verse to the 11th verse, it's talking about transmigration of the soul. You're familiar with that. And how the goal is to leave this material world and go back to the spiritual world. And he talks about how we are struggling. We are eternal fragmental parts. There's one verse we'll discuss that, of Krishna, and how we are struggling in this material world. That's the second thing. And then the transcendental, you know, when you come to the transcendental platform, you can see clearly. You know, like you had this song in those days. I can see clearly now. So, you can see clearly, but the blind materialist cannot see this. So like this, there are topics from 6 to 11. I'm just paraphrasing it. And then it talks about Krishna's position as a maintainer. From about 12 to 15, we should be attracted to Krishna by knowing his position. Like when you love somebody, then you know the details of that person, what he likes, what he don't like. Isn't it? That because you have knowledge. So therefore people, you ask them about Krishna, it's so vague for them. They know Krishna is God, but that's all. But they don't have knowledge about him. So that, and how he maintains this cosmic, level, this cosmic world, and how he's a person. And then 12 to 15 is also discussing about Krishna. He's the compiler of the Vedanta, the scriptures, and he's the knower of the Vedas. It's very important. That's a very important verse we will discuss. And the fourth section is dealing with a summary of the Vedas and Vedanta. Vedanta means the end of knowledge. Veda means knowledge, Anta means end. And the end of knowledge is to know Krishna. That's the end of knowledge. And then 19 and 20 is dealing with knowing Krishna means knowing everything. When one knows Krishna, then he knows everything. And he engages in his service. So this is like an overview on the 15th chapter. But since we have new people, we'll also take questions, because I think you wanted to raise some questions before. Yeah, he has his questions. So we will as I talk, you ask it, and then we will do both. Because if we leave it to the end, we won't achieve that. And when we don't finish, then I'll come again and we'll continue with it. Is that okay? So becoming detached from this material world. I'll read this first verse. It's from the 15th chapter, text 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree, has its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas." So the theme is that material world is an upside down banyan tree. So if you know a tree, the roots is in the bottom. But if this tree is upside down, then the roots is on the top. It's deep rooted. So it says that one who knows this tree is a true knower of the Vedas. So what about the Vedas? And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes very interesting points. He says the entire material world is compared to a banyan tree. And banyan tree, when you plant it here, its roots can be in somewhere by the beach or something. It's just like, that's how much it can expand itself. This is a banyan tree. And when one is on this banyan tree, it's very deep rooted, and the other is that one wanders from one branch to another. See, if somebody who's seeking pleasure is running from one branch to another, it's like a monkey. You saw monkeys, they look one branch to another. They go. But they entirely engage in sense gratification. But then there's like we have Vedic hymns. Now this Vedic hymns is to elevate one. And this elevation takes gradually. So why we understand this tree of illusion? We have to come to understand this tree of illusion, because with that weapon of knowledge, we have to, or the sword, we have to cut that detachment. And detachment is not such an easy thing. It doesn't mean you can take on sword and cut the fellow's head off. You're detached. It doesn't work like that. But you detached yourself with knowledge by practice. And the best way to do it is through devotional service. And here in the 15th chapter, this particular verse, It's talking about that tree I was saying, the reflection on the bank of a river. So the real world is there, up there. And the spiritual world, that's the real world. But this is the illusion, this is the reflection. Like we are very attracted to reflection. Like every morning, how much time you spend in front of the mirror? You may look at yourself, you're dressed up, you look again to see whether you look beautiful. When you're going, you say, okay, really I look beautiful? Do you do that? No, you all don't do that, but others, men do that. You know, they're looking at themselves all the time. Is it not true? So because we're attached, you know, to this, to the reflection. But the reflection exists because of the original spiritual world. You have a reflection. You exist, and that's your reflection. You know, like once there was one person. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. They will just get distracted. So somebody who's attracted to Vedic formulas, meaning that somebody is attracted, like when you're coming from a Hindu background, from the Hindu background, you're attracted to many ritualistic activities. And mainly the Vedas deals with this subject matter. So we're attracted to rituals, but we're not attracted to Krishna himself as a person. You get it? We're attracted to the rituals. And these rituals are not wrong, but you are doing this because you need something in return. So this tree is nourished. In the next verse, Krishna is saying this tree is nourished by these modes. See? I'll just read the verse itself. The branches of this tree extended downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. The tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. You see, when you nourish this fruitive, when you want something in return, then you get caught up with these modes of nature, and the modes of nature are very binding. Even like the other day I was explaining, we get people in the mode of ignorance. They're very curt with people. They're morose. You don't feel like looking at them. And they're very curt. They're very morose, and they procrastinate a lot. These are people in the mode of ignorance. But even you move to the more level of passion is not good. But when you move to the mode of goodness, that's good. But that's not also good for spirituality. To the highest extent, or to the, it's good to a certain extent, because some people are proud of their goodness. Say, I'm a good man. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble, I don't eat meat. I'm a good man. So that's pride. You get it? Even if you're a devotee, you have pride. And the second thing it does, it makes you very complacent, because you're a good fellow. So you can't move upwards. So you're still caught with those modes. So like this, sometimes the tract of the land is barren and sometimes it is green. Sometimes there's less water there and more water, meaning you're nourishing yourself within those modes of nature more or less. It's quite how Krishna explains it. And that is in text 2. Then in 3 and 4, then there's a common theme. The real form of the tree cannot be perceived in this world. Use the acts of detachment. So detachment. So how do you practice detachment? And we should cut, with determination. We should detach ourselves. But detachment means attachment. Detachment means, what it means? Attachment. So when you're getting detached from something, you must get attached to something else. It cannot be to say like I'm detached, I would have nothing to do with this world, I don't want to see any ladies, I don't want to see these people, I don't want to do this anymore. No, that won't work. Detaching and attaching. So you detach yourself from material consciousness and you attach yourself to Krishna. And in this verse 3 and 4, the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down the strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Therefore, one must seek the place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So it's very, very difficult, as we said, practicing detachment. Does anybody here like to be detached from this world and be attached to Krishna, or you just like to be detached and do nothing else? You like to be attached to Krishna and you like to be attached to the world. Which one you prefer? You like both? A little bit of this and a little bit of that. See, so that's a challenge. You like both, yes?
When we are living this world, you see, so that's how we attach to it. So we reach to Krishna, and that's how we get to the Krishna process.
Okay, so you're living in this world. See, the thing is, you can live in this world and you cannot be in this world. You see, it's like a lotus flower. A lotus flower, it's in the water, and at the same time it's not in the water because it's always above the water. It doesn't grow inside the water, but it's above the water. So a devotee is like that. Somebody who becomes devoted, he's above the water. He's above this world. He's not disturbed by what things are going on. And you see a lotus flower, it has a wax on it. And when water gets onto it, it just glides away. It's like, when we were young, we used to play with this marubi leaves, You put the water and you move it a little bit. You try that? You find it very attractive, it's just gliding away. But when I became a devotee, I thought about it. Yes, this is what we were trying to learn from this thing. Because you will be, and then things will come to you, but it doesn't affect you. It just glides away. So yes, this tree, we're talking about is a reflection of the real tree. And as we gave that example, we have to cut it by detachment. And it's not so easy. Not so easy. Anybody has any questions so far from what we're asking? Who is it? You can say anything, you can add also. Because it'd be good if you do it both ways. So how do we overcome this detachment? So we may have attachment for sense enjoyment, and it's very strong. But when we discuss the scriptures, we hear about Krishna's glories, we sit with sadhus, and when you're sitting with saintly persons and you have this discussion, then everything, these things start coming to you. You're becoming like free from this world. See, the cause is right, up to Brahma Loka, because we're all coming down. Brahma is the sort of creator in one sense. And then that root is there. So therefore sometimes we may even take to spiritual life, but we may not be convinced that we have to worship Krishna. Like when we were growing up, we were worshipping Brahma, Shiva. And, I was giving a talk on Lord Shiva some weeks back, on Shivaratri in the temple, and one girl came and she got very attracted to this. We were giving a whole breakdown of, there's one is in our class, Suniraya, and she got very attracted to this whole description given about Lord Shiva's position. But when I come next time, we can discuss it, that in detail. So when you start discussing from the scriptures, then naturally you start getting attraction for God, and then detachment takes place. So you don't work with it like I want to have nothing to do and then get attached to God. It doesn't work like that. But it works simultaneously. As you get attached to Krishna, you get detached from the material world. Simple. As you hear more and more. And one has to surrender, one has to hear. Hearing is very important. So then, then moving on to 5, text 5. You have read Bhagavad Gita? No. Did you read Bhagavad Gita? No.
No, not the Bhagavad, the copy of that.
Did you read this book?
No.
Yes, I read it.
You read this book?
Yes.
Okay, we'll give you a Bhagavad Gita. You come to the, we'll send one for you. You can read Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
Okay. So then the 5th text is saying, those who are free from false prestige, illusion and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who are unbewildered, know how to surrender into the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. So this is the surrendering process. The first qualification is that you have to become free from pride. And that's like a really difficult thing to do. You know, there's a lady who passed away last night at 5 to 11, and she was a devotee. Her name was Radha Kund. And Radha Kund was from Veralam, and I know her for like maybe 35, 40 years. And the last 2 days I was in the hospital with her for, seeing her off, whether she really liked to go back to Godhead. So we were there together, myself and Nikunja Seva, another devotee. So we were the day before yesterday, and when I went down earlier to see her, in the earlier visiting hours, and she was, in some level, she was okay, in conscious-wise, but you could see that she's going to leave, she hasn't got very long time to go. So I asked her, who are you thinking of? She said, well, I am thinking of Radha Rani now. And her name is Radha Kund. So I said to her that at Radha Kund, there's only 2 people there. There's Radha Rani and Lord Krishna. And she nodded her head and she was like, yes. And then she kind of dozed off a little bit. But then as time went, we had to leave. So somehow we went back in the night to see her. So we went around 7 o'clock, and then we went to see her, and a whole lot of her family members had come. And then, so I had to go in, and myself and Nikunja were there, and then the family members were together, and then they had to leave because the visiting hours were over. And then we said, okay, we'll stay. And they stayed also, when the nurses allowed us in to be with her. So I was, but before that I could, before all of them could leave the room, I was thinking which pastime should I read to her? Because which will attract her to Krishna the most? So I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, there's 5 chapters in the Krishna book which discusses a very important pastime of Radharani. And the gopis and separation. And I'm thinking whether I should discuss that, because these people are there, they won't understand it. And then I said, okay. I opened the pastime of Mother Yashoda binding baby Krishna. And as I read this pastime, I was describing it to her. And her eyes were shut, and she was hearing it, like with so much rapt attention. But she was like almost unconscious. She became alive, She just came into like consciousness again. And then I started chanting after reading the pastime, Krishna's name. And as I was chanting, I stopped. I said, you chant now. And she continued chanting. She chanted and chanted and chanted, and she dozed off again. So we waited there, and the other devotees had to leave, but I stayed back, and then I said, no, then my turn came to go back in. So I went back into, then I said, now there's nobody here, now I'm going to start reading about Radha and Krishna to her. And I read the Radharani's, I read the introduction of the Rasa dance, I read the whole chapter. They put the light off at one point, but somehow, and my eyesight is not so good, so I'm looking, but I read the whole thing. I finished reading the first chapter. Then we went last night, and as we were, I was alone again, and I came basically the next morning. The first day I became the next morning, so I went again the night, and then I was reading. So I read just thinking I'm going to read this fast to you. I'm telling you, but she's like unconscious. But I'm just reading fast, like I read 3 chapters straight. I said, I'm going to read one. I just got one more chapter to read and it'll be over. But her son walked in and he said he'd like to chant for the mother. I said, you chant and I'll just leave it. And I left. But as we were reading, you could see that the change of consciousness. So this is very important, that surrender. And her surrender was very good. And then finally, at around 5 to 11, she left her body. And we all were there and we just chanted Hare Krishna, and she's like, left this world. So the thing is, we have to surrender. But within that, when I was reading, this one topic of pride came up, where Krishna leaves the gopis just to teach them the lesson that they can't be proud. So this is a very important, and when I was reading that thing and I'm looking at this lady and I'm thinking this is such an important quality, freedom from false prestige and pride, the first qualification. So if one is proud, he'll be puffed up, he'll think himself, I'm such and so person. I own so much. I'm such a wealthy person. Pride. You find lots of people like that. Even amongst devotees, they have this pride. We are not fully free from this thing. We are trying. But it's not such an easy thing to give up overnight. What do you think of that? What do you think of pride? Huh? Savanga?
It's really
Obstacle, eh? Yeah. You're expecting some honor in some way. Some way you're expecting somebody to recognize. You're praying within it, I hope this person recognizes me in some way. So that's pride. Sometimes people say, when you're glorifying people, say, ooh, they don't want to hear when you're saying what you're really glorifying them. You hear that? Say, no, I'm not like that, But as soon as you say how humble they are, they want to hear that. That's also pride. That's the pitfall of pride. You get it? When you're glorifying somebody, they don't want to hear that. But as soon as you say how humble they are, they want to hear that. So that's the pitfall. So as you get more and more attached, so pride is a quality. It's not a bad quality. It's like sometimes, a spiritualist like Prabhupada one time, it may appear to be like he was, very proud. But it's not like that with a person who is on the level above nature, above the modes of nature. So when once, it was brought up that, Krishna consciousness is only spread in India. It was, Lord Chaitanya went around India and spread Krishna consciousness. He didn't come to South Africa. He didn't go to America. So that, they were asking Prabhupada, why, And Prabhupada said no, because he wanted me to do it. So it may appear as pride, but it's not like that. When somebody comes to that level, when he's got that knowledge and he cultivates that knowledge, then he becomes free from pride because of surrender to Krishna. Because everything he's doing now becomes in relation to Krishna. Everything that he does is in relation to Krishna. So that is not related to Krishna. Like we may do something, but we do it separate in the sense we want that recognition. So it's like that. And then you must come free from like false proprietorship. Just like we own nothing. You see, as soon as you own something, it becomes problematic because you have to maintain it now. You have to protect it. And in the end, we're going to lose it anyway. But for the time being, we use it in Krishna's service. So that's how you become free from false proprietorship. But the danger is, you may say, okay, see, I got this phone now. Not many people have this phone. So, but we use it in Krishna's service. But if you buy a smartphone, will you be using it in Krishna's service all the time? Yes or no? Yes or no? No. Because you'll be looking at other things there. We were talking, the one devotee commented, you can do without your wife for 2 weeks, which is difficult, but you can't do without your phone for 2 weeks. It's a thing because it's like so you may get attached to gadgets, but it may not be necessary. And false proprietorship is something that you have to work on. Don't try to accumulate too much. What's necessary for spiritual life. The more you hoard and the more you accumulate, the more painful life becomes. Like see, we live in the temple. We get up in the morning. We don't pay rent. We don't worry about anything. We get a little bit prasadam. And we go out and we preach every day like this. Very interesting. Will you like a life like that? Huh? Don't want life like this. Huh? Will you like something like that? So inspiring. So when you have affection, see, it's natural to have affection for your children. But that becomes the problem also. You know how children are, isn't it? I mean, it's in your consciousness all the time how to help them. So yeah, we have to become free from false proprietorship and pride. So those things actually entangles us in this material world. So how do you do that? Is you cultivate knowledge, spiritual knowledge. This is not mine. This is not. I'm going to lose it anyway. In the end of this life, I'm going to leave it and go. See, just like that. And any questions or comments so far? Anybody like to say something? Do you have any questions? Should we speak a little more? Sunila, you want to say anything? You don't like owning too many things, proprietorship, no? You don't like it, huh? Very good. So you work on it, you try not to accumulate more. Because when you start accumulating, it becomes very problematic. You just have things that you can use for your own spiritual practices. So these verses were dealing with that subject matter on detachment, and then we talk about transmigration. It said that in text 6 and 7, we'll stop that, but then we'll take some questions. It talks about load shedding, this verse. Let me read it for you. The supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Yes, electricity. That abode is not illumined by the sun or the moon. That is another world. And in this world, when you want to go to this world, see, if you attach to the material world, then you'll remain in the material world, like this verse. Those who reach it never return to this material world. And that world, you have relationships. And it's such an interesting subject matter where you have relationships with Krishna. What type of relationship would you like to have with Krishna? If I ask you, I'm just asking you in general. Paramatma?
Master servant.
Master servant, huh? What type of servant? What do you like to do?
Not sure.
Not sure. See, that's a good answer. You're not certain. But if you have a relationship, there must be something that you know about the person, and you want to do something for the person. You must have knowledge about that. So the fact that you don't know it, because there's also when you're doing like when you get an examination, it could be A, B, or C, or none of the above. So you may, that's also an answer that you're not sure. Ash, what type of relationship would you like to have with Krishna? A friendly relationship, Like what? Yeah. So you still don't know. You can see what I'm talking about? Sunira?
Whatever Krishna.
Huh?
Whatever Krishna pleases.
No, but what would you like?
Whatever he chooses would be best for me.
No, but you already have a relationship with Krishna. It's covered now. You don't know it. So I'm just trying to, okay, let me put it another way. Which pastime you like the best?
Kitchen pastimes.
Huh?
The stealing of the butter.
Stealing of the butter. So that's motherly relationship, huh? Anybody else? Which pastime you like with Krishna? You ever thought about it? Govardhana. Coward boys.
I like the pastime of coward boys.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You told me the last time. Yeah. Huh? Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's very high, but very good. Yes. So you see, different people have different relationships. So when you reach this place, then you have to develop that relationship. But before you enter, you have to already purify yourself in this world to enter that world. And you may have reflections of it sometimes. Like sometimes when you're looking at reading a pastime, you get attracted to it for a moment, not for long, maybe for a few minutes or something. Then you get bored, you say, leave it, I'll read 2 pages, leave it. You had that experience? So it's like that. Because we're not reading it, because we're not on that platform. So when one enters this abode, Krishna is saying, he never comes back to this world. So this world, that world is full of relationships. Like you're married, you have husband and wife. It's a relationship. So in that world there is a relationship also. Krishna dancing with the gopis, that's a very high pastime. It's very And it's on the highest level. And you have to really purify yourself. But you can get it. Like I was telling Sunira and all the other day in the class, there was one lady who was just like doing simple work for the movement, and she was initiated by Prabhupada. But in the end, she realized her spiritual form in the spiritual world while she was in this world. And she was packing lunch for Krishna. She can make it back in Islam. So you can also, come to that level. You can come to that level. There's a book like that. I printed that book some years back, maybe 2 decades ago or something. It's called Simple for the Simple. Yeah. So very beautiful. And this material world, there's so many things you could say. We're living in this dark material world. And people want to be in charge of a dark world. There's so many things Prabhupada writes in the purport, but we can't go through it now. And this is the 6th verse. Krishna consciousness, I'll discuss this point from the purport. How Krishna consciousness helps. It helps by gradual development. Only way to get detached from attraction to the material world is not by wearing saffron cloth. See, like I wear saffron cloth. If you wear this cloth, doesn't mean you're detached from this material world. But you must be attached to devotional service. And serious devotional service, like how Prabhupada describes it, or Krishna describes in the 12th chapter. So you have to work on your Krishna consciousness, you have to associate with devotees. It's not a question of cloth. Like once Prabhupada was giving a lecture, it's probably in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the devotee couldn't remember it, but he said, you got a 25% chance to go back to God if you're a householder. A 50% chance if you're a brahmachari, meaning you're a celibate monk. And 75% if you're a sannyasi. So the one devotee was there, he said, Prabhupada, this other devotee, Surabi, he works so hard. He's working 18 hours a day. He got a small makeshift, like desk. And he's drawing this plans for the temple, for this beautiful temple. What will be his situation? He's a householder. He said, no, he's not a householder, he's a sannyasi. He's not a householder, he's a sannyasi. You know why? Because he's absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So it's not a question of moving from one ashram to another, but it's a question of your absorption. She says, no, he'll go back, he's a sannyasi. So we have to be absorbed in God consciousness. And the way you get absorbed, you take your bead bag and you chant. You all got beads? Everybody got beads? You don't have beads? So we'll send beads for you. Beads and bead bags, and you can start chanting, and we'll send a Bhagavad Gita for you. And you must come here every week. Your life will change. Is it okay? Just listen to what they are. Just take that very seriously, and your life will change. Yes?
I don't want to sound stupid.
Huh?
I said, I don't want to sound stupid, but what made you decide to become a brother?
Like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I was a married man, so I know a lot about married life. But my wife died very young. And, but my mother was actually training me up to be a sadhu. She never told me to go to university. The only time I go to university is when I'm going to talk about Krishna. So I didn't make it. I wanted to be a social worker. I like to help people, but it never worked. I couldn't make it. But then I worked and was married, and my wife died, and I had a daughter and grew up. I should do everything what a lady does, so I know a lot about it. And just the other day was Mother's Day or something, and my daughter phones the phone and says, Happy Mother's Day, because I was helping her to grow up. You know, the thing is, then it's a long story if I have to describe the way I joined. It's very intriguing also. And but in essence, I was always looking for God from a young age, and I wanted to be a saintly. My mother wanted me to be saintly also. She didn't want me to be a materialist. So I said, okay, I'll do that, and I was trying to help people. I wanted to help people, but the best welfare work is doing, this Krishna consciousness is the best welfare work. So it happened like that. My wife died, then I took more, but I was already practicing Krishna consciousness, and then we just carried on practicing, and then I just left everything, and I went traveling, preaching to other countries, and just came and lived in the temple. And I just live in the temple, and I live very peacefully. But mainly I think it came from my mother. I love my father more, but this thing came from my mother. Because the qualities a boy gets is from the mother. And the quality a girl gets is from the father. It's quite an interesting thing. You'll find that the sons are attached to the mother. It's true, eh? You'll see the qualities, yeah, that's how it is. So if your mother is saintly, it works like that. So that's. It's a long story how I joined, but it's quite a long story. I can't tell it now, some other time.
So who actually is Mother Yashoda?
Mother Yashoda.
Yes.
Mother Yashoda is Krishna's mother. But it doesn't mean that Mother Yashoda is greater than Krishna. See, it's like this. Like you have a relationship, you had a mother, right? You have a relationship with her. So Krishna, if we can have a relationship with our mother, then don't you think God can also have a relationship with the mother? And we were talking about that reflection. See, that original relationship is with Krishna, that motherly relationship. But in this world is that reflection in the mirror or in the water. You get it? So it's like that. So Mother Yashoda has that motherly relationship with Krishna. And she chastises Krishna. She wants to beat him up if he's getting naughty, stealing butter. She does all that. So just like how a mother will treat a child. So that type of relationship he relishes. He comes under her control. See, why do you want to become God when you can become greater than God? Because a devotee can control God. You get it? A devotee controls God. Because just like, for example, you have children? You don't have children. So if you have children, you'll find that the children will control the mother and father. You get it? Sunira looking at the mother because her brother is controlling the mother. True. It's control. They control the parent. It's like this, it's because and the parent doesn't feel bad being controlled by the child. You get it? So yes, so it's like that, we have relationships, and Mother Yashoda's relationship, she controls Krishna. And Krishna gives in. So that is that type of parental relationship. But Mother Yashoda doesn't know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. She doesn't know that. She thinks he's just my son. He's just, he's my son. She doesn't think that he's God. Because as soon as she thinks he's God, then that relationship of mother doesn't exist. You get it? Krishna becomes superior. So nobody will want to, if she realizes Krishna is God, then she's not going to go with a stick around him, hitting him, or going chasing him with a stick. So Krishna appreciates this more, he relishes it, that relationship. And Mother Yashoda, there's many mothers. You can have a motherly, just like a cow is also considered a mother. A nurse is considered a mother. The wife of a brahmana is a mother. The earth is a mother. That's why I say Mother Earth. Gives you everything and you can sustain yourself. So yes, this is all coming from Krishna, and Krishna is full of relationship. But that pastime of Mother Yashoda binding baby Krishna is such a beautiful pastime. When you read it and read it and read it, you'll get so many different realizations. It's spiritual, and you'll never get tired. It's so wonderful. So it makes sense? Mother Yashoda, she controls it. So that is a little, those topics will come as you read more and more. And becoming more, like you start surrendering more to Krishna. It'll come slowly, okay? Anything else you want to say? You want so carry on?
Radha and Krishna grew up together when they were small.
Huh?
Did Radha and Krishna grow up together when they were small?
They
also had a relationship.
Yeah, that's a good question. When Radha and Krishna grew up together, you see, the spiritual, our growth we discuss in terms of our body. Like I was 5 years old, now I'm 10 years old. But Krishna also has an age. He's sometimes like 5 years, then 7 years, and 8 years. Then he was like dancing in the gopis, and 8 years. Then like 16 years. But like you say, somebody's, when you celebrate the 16th birthday, like sweet 16 or something, they are eternally like 16. Get it? They're eternally like that, for good. So they're very youthful. And they have pastimes. They're God. But their body is not like our body. It's not material, it's spiritual. Get it? So it doesn't get old, doesn't get wrinkled. You don't have to do your face every day, nothing like that. Isn't it? Make sense? So yes, they grew up together, but they are actually like Krishna's. Now you mustn't get it wrong, because some people think like Krishna is lusty like that. It's not something like that. It's more than that. But then again we come to that reflection. You must always remember that reflection when you ask that type of question, because the reflection means that the original thing is in the spiritual world, and the opposite is in this world. Like people go to discotheques, dance, gamble, do all these kind of things. That's the material world. But when Radha and Krishna dance, like what she was talking about, it's a lot different. It's spiritual. It's very, very different. There's so many things I tell you, but not for now. But just understand that it is spiritual. Is it okay? It's spiritual. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the class. It's a very random thought that popped into my head, but speaking of the reflections and how we in this material world, living in this earth plane, how we through this Krishna consciousness movement that we are trying to endeavor to go back to
Got it.
Godhead, right? because we understand that our original constitutional position is, servant of Lord Shri Krishna. We're trying to get out of this world. I just had a thought, and perhaps it's another conversation to have in another class, but my understanding of the spiritual sky, there's Krishna Lok, the ultimate abode of Lord Shri Krishna, and then you get the Vaikuntha planets. And I understand that it's not necessarily Krishna Lok, but it's still spiritual. I'm wondering that if we have this opportunity to go back to Krishna Lok, is that the same in Vaikuntha planets as well? Is that possibly some opportunity there that those people or those souls, whoever resides there, will eventually try aim to reach that ultimate abode? Because I understand that those Vaikuntha planets are not necessarily the ultimate, or it's not Krishna because it's not Krishna Lok. So if we have such mercy over here, is there some opportunity for mercy to have those beings
from there to go to Krishna Lok?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful question. The thing is, you see, that Vrindavan, that Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, exists in this material world, where we normally can go to in this. You can go to that Vrindavan. So we have different relationships with Krishna, and that's eternal. That doesn't change. Like somebody who has a relationship with Narayan, that's an eternal relationship. So his relationship will not change. But in Krishna consciousness or in spiritual life, this science it is not static, it's dynamic. It can change. You get it? It can change. But if you have that, say for example, you start associating with devotees and you start developing attraction to have that relationship with Krishna in Golok Vrindavan, that can change. It can change. But when you go to Vaikuntha, you're very satisfied there. So you'll be satisfied because you have that relationship. There's a story of Gop Kumar, and Gop Kumar, he goes, into all the different realms from the material world to the spiritual world, and he goes to Vaikuntha. But then he's there, but Gop Kumar is attached to cows. He's a cowherd boy. So he is calling out for the cows, but there's no cows there, that's not the place for cows. There's opulence there. That's Gujarat. Actually, it's all opulent, So it's a very opulent place. And then that's Narada and Uddhava, they detected that there's something wrong. So he could have gone to Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, but he didn't go. They didn't tell him, now you can go to Goloka. He had to come back to this world, to that world in Goloka Vrindavan. One in Delhi, they're 4 hours away from Delhi, Gokul, the Vrindavan in this material world, and he had to practice again. And then you have to associate with that type of people. Like you can ask Sarvanga, you have to associate with those people who make those cow dung patties. She knows. I told her that morning, you'd like to do that. She said, no, I can't do that. So you can't go there because there they make cow dung patties. You get it? So then he had to come down and practice again and then goes back to the spiritual world. But when he goes back, he can't find Krishna. Krishna is not there. Because why? Krishna went to herd the cows. He's gone to herd the cows in the spiritual world. And then he comes after, from afar, he can see this person has come. His name is, in the spiritual world, Gop Kumar's name is Sarup, S-A-R-U-P, Sarup. So he sees Sarup from a very distant place, and Krishna sees his long lost friend, so he runs and embraces him. And when he embraces him, then his whole tears were just rolling from his eyes. And the whole spiritual world was wet with tears. And then Krishna faints. And he faints. When he faints, then all the residents come running. Who is this guy? He just came and he caused this to Krishna. So they don't know him, because he came after a long time. But Krishna, his relationship was with Krishna. So then, Sarup, Lord Balaram comes to this person, Sarup, who is Gopakumar in this world, and he said that you should go to his ears and shout, Krishna! Krishna! So he went into his ears and he shouted, Krishna! Krishna, and he got up. So that chanting of Krishna's names is here and there. It's continuous. So Krishna comes back, and then his long lost friend he meets. And then they go into this, it's a long story, but then they go into chambers, and then he eats a laddu. Krishna is having something to eat, and he's sitting on that side. And Krishna takes a bite of this laddu and throw it in his plate, to eat. But like Radharani probably made this laddu and it was not so tasty. So Manohar means, it is called Manohar laddu. Man means mind, and Hari means to steal. Steals your mind. So he was, he got Krishna's remnant. But you can see how that if somebody had an attraction, if it's in Vaikuntha, he won't go straight to Goloka. He has to come back and practice sadhana, because he has to learn from the people who are doing these things. You get it? Say for example, like you have Lakshmi Devi, there's a whole pastime. And the next time when I come here, we'll read it. The Lakshmi Devi, how she's, she can't enter the rasa dance. She cannot enter because of her opulence. She cannot give up that opulence. She don't want to give up that opulence, that pomp and opulence, and she cannot give up that body. Because the body, you have to now give up your body and take birth in a coward family to go back to the spiritual world. You have to become a Vaishya. You get it? So it's quite an answer, Yeah, so that's how it works. It's quite a detailed answer. But there's a lot to it. You do a whole seminar on it, about going back to the spiritual world. So yes, so it takes some time, but I think we're out of time. And I said it would take you 5 minutes more. So yeah, that's an interesting pastime. And so therefore, like Lakshmi Devi, even up to today, cannot enter the pastime of Krishna. And she's across the Jamuna, she's praying like this. Her hand is like this. Normally she's, giving benediction of wealth. But her hand is like this. She's praying to the devotees, may I get the mercy to enter that pastime of Radha and Krishna. So, yeah, it's nice to go there.
The ladies shine the glass with Fridays, then you can take up the glass where they shine that. So they're still attached. Not for them to surrender.
Yeah, well, for ladies it's easy to surrender to Krishna consciousness. They're more spiritual according to Prabhupada. They can take more easily to spiritual life. He writes it in the first canto. Yes?
Hare Krishna. If it's possible, do you think maybe you can come here one day or one of the Wednesdays and give us the full pastime of Gopakumar's
Gopakumar. It's a long story. It's a big book. It's like 3 volumes. It's a very interesting dialogue. How he goes through all these things as well possible, goes through it sounds interesting. Yeah. But because he asked that question, that's related to that. And he had to come and do like sadhana, the basic practices. You have to learn from the devotee to go back. So therefore you'll have to learn from that type of devotees and that type of relationship. Okay. So,
Is that book in our bookstore?
yeah.
Is it called?
Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can read it. But it's very wonderful. You must have to like get it. See, like he asked a very nice question. Because when we go to that part of the spiritual world, whether we can go back to Krishna Loka. But Krishna's planet is different. Because there's conjugal pastimes. Like in the other places, the pastimes are a little different. But in Goloka Vrindavan, it's conjugal pastimes. It's quite high. You know? Yeah. And Krishna herds the cows, and there's Radha Kund, there's Shama Kund. Yeah. But it's all very intimate. Okay. That's why most of the Hindus don't know about Lord Narayan. And there's a whole discussion in the CC. Maybe next time when you come here, we can do that at the CC and Venkata Bhatta. Yeah, we can go through it. And if you go through it, then you'll see how deep this process is of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you very much.